Hey there, welcome to the Impatient Entrepreneur Podcast, a show where we hear from entrepreneurs and business owners who are chomping at the bit to make their mark on the world. I'm your host, Lauren Quidar-Cockrell. Now, let's hurry up and get to the good stuff. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Impatient Entrepreneur Podcast. I am so thrilled to have someone I respect very deeply on the episode today. She and I luckily get to work together quite a bit in a professional capacity, and I just think she hung the moon in many regards. So please meet my friend and colleague, Dr. Celeste Holbrook. Celeste, please introduce yourselves to our listeners.
Hi, Lauren. I'm so excited to be here and do interviewing on your podcast because we do know each other and we do love each other. And I think this is going to be so much fun. So thank you so much for having me. Yes, my name is Celeste. I am a sex educator. I have a practice in Fort Worth, but I see people all over because I see everybody through Zoom. And so I see couples and individuals to help with things like sexual pain, sexual shame, and low libido. I also have a contract with the Velvet Box where I work as their sex educator, which is very, very fun. So I get to do things like talk about sex toys and talk about things like blowjobs and oral sex and anal sex. So it's very, very, very fun and interesting. And I love my job.
Yes. And so, someone might be listening and thinking, why have I invited a sex educator on the podcast? And honestly, Celeste was one of the first people I thought about when we kicked off this podcast. Truly. I want to talk about the business, your business. You run a business. It is would you characterize it as a medically based business, or is it like more therapeutic? Like, how would you couch, what your industry is?
Yeah, I would actually couch my industry as education. So I'm a service-based educator. And I just happen to have my own practice. A lot of sex educators work within organizations like Planned Parenthood or with sex toy companies or things like that. But I happen to have my own practice where what I do looks a lot like therapy, but it's actually more education. All of my theories that I work on, like social cognitive theory, are educational or behavior change based. So that's kind of the vein that I work in. Gotcha.
And you have a PhD. Yes,
I do. Yes. I do. I do. I have a PhD in health education, and then I have a postgraduate emphasis in sexuality, which just means I took extra courses in sex and sexual behavior because I wanted to focus on that behavior specifically. So I have a PhD in health education and behaviors, but I wanted to focus in on sex and sexual behaviors.
Awesome. So would you consider yourself an impatient entrepreneur?
I saw this question and I was like, probably so. Probably most people consider themselves impatient. I wouldn't say it's something that I identify with a ton. Probably I am just slow. And I accept this about myself. And I am not super impatient on most things. And sometimes it is actually a hindrance, but I would actually not say I'm much of an impatient entrepreneur. So I don't know if that blows holes in your
No, it doesn't.
in your podcast, but I do not identify very much as impatient, actually.
Well, it's funny because a future guest said, no, I don't consider myself impatient. Are you sure you want to have me on? And I said, yes. Why would I want everyone to be the same? I mean, tell us all the things. So in general, do you consider yourself an entrepreneur? Do you see yourself as an entrepreneur and as a business owner and all that?
Yes, I absolutely do. And if you would have asked me that probably 7 or 8 years ago, I would have said, no, not really. I'm just an educator, trying to make money. When in reality, I'm very proud now of how I've built something from scratch with really no roadmap. There's not a whole lot of people who do exactly what I do. So I just didn't have a lot of places to go okay, here's the step-by-step, which was so hard for me as somebody who really loves to be told what to do, which is the only reason I got a PhD was because I'm so good at following directions. I'm like, yes, I will. If you give me a syllabus, I will do all the things, check the boxes, and then you hand me the thing, right? And entrepreneurship is not like that at all. And so I've just really had to, I feel like, struggle for a really long time and be very patient while I figure out how to make my own business and make it work for me and for the people that I serve. So I do consider myself a business owner and an entrepreneur now, but I wouldn't say I ever thought about that, even until, 10 years ago.
And so what does your business look like? So you do have clients who you speak to directly, like you said, you work with the Velvet Box. So, what's your business model? Like, talk through kind of like your revenue streams, as much as you feel comfortable sharing.
Mm-hmm. So there's basically 3 revenue streams for me in short. So I have individual clients who come and see me between 4 and 8 sessions, usually, not long-term typically. And I'll see couples or individuals. And so that's a lot of turnover. So I'm constantly getting new clients that way and marketing for new clients that way. My second revenue stream is a contract. And I have only one, and which is the only one that I want, a contract with an organization called the Velvet Box, a business called the Velvet Box, where I do education. Sometimes I do social media videos and I teach their classes at the Velvet Box. And I'm a contract employee there. And my third revenue stream is speaking and workshops. And so I travel around, usually a couple times a month. Sometimes it's online. Sometimes I'm going places, to speak to groups of people who need some sort of sex education, whether it be the Alzheimer's Association to talk to their, early onset Alzheimer's couples about how to navigate sex when consent is off the table. Or I'm talking to a church organization about, the way purity culture affects our sex lives as adults. So that's essentially my 3 revenue streams. And I am in a part of my business where I'm shifting more towards group education versus individual education. Mostly because I just love it more. I love speaking to individuals. It's hard work. It's a lot of hard work and it's a lot of listening to trauma, which as an educator, I was never trained for. Like, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist. And so it took me a while to learn how to manage listening and hearing people's traumatic experiences, which I feel, don't get me wrong, I feel so privileged and so lucky to be able to hold those stories for people. And I don't think that I can do it forever. So I also just really love group education. It's really fun. I love having vulnerable discussions and open discussions with groups of people, facilitating and normalizing all things sex. So
I could see
moment in time. I'm shifting. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I interrupted you. I'm sorry. I was going to say I could see with one-on-one or couples sessions that the instance for your personal burnout would be much higher. And so, have to protect yourself for the longevity of your career and your family and everything. Just you as a person.
Yeah, exactly. I'll never stop doing it completely, but I've cut back in the last couple of years, and it feels really good to be able to have a little bit more space to be creative and write and do some other things that I really like.
So how do you, what are you consuming right now? Like, how do you pour into yourself through either education or just what do you like to read or listen to? Or, how do you feed yourself with information?
Yeah. So I read a lot of nonfiction. I try to read some fiction every now and then. Like, for example, people are suggesting erotic novels to me all the time. And I try to read like one or two. But most of the time I'm reading nonfiction. Right now I'm reading Gretchen Rubin's new book about the five senses, which is really cool and very applicable to sex. And then I'm also taking a course right now I'm taking like a 6-month long course on speaking and how to develop your speaking business. And so that's really helping me develop some practices and some habits to continue to pitch and to pitch well and to get speaking gigs that pay better, a little bit better. So those are the two things that I'm currently doing right now.
Cool. Love that. What are you creating right now?
Well, I have spent the last few years working on a manuscript. I have a complete manuscript that is in the process of being submitted to publishers. So I am very excited about the possibility of a book being out there someday.
Oh my goodness. Can you give us like a little teaser? Like, is it a nonfiction? Is it fiction? Is it educational? Like what are we getting?
Yeah. So it's essentially about how to take your pleasure back, and it's geared towards women. I think one of the biggest problems we have, or that I see from my chair as a sex educator, one of the biggest problems that we experience is not defining pleasure in sex and in life for ourselves. We often live by somebody else's definition of what pleasure should look like. And so the book is essentially about taking your pleasure back. And right now it's called The Pleasure Is Mine.
Oh my God. So good. I love that.
Thank you. Thank you. Put some good vibes out there that a publisher will pick it up.
Oh, yes. They are out there for sure. I cannot wait. You have such a wonderful voice. You're so compassionate and empathetic and kind and hilarious for sure. So just, I think what a gift to be able to reach so many people through the medium of books. I think that's really exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And more congratulations when someone picks it up.
Yes. Let's hope for a bidding war. How about that? We'll even go a step farther.
Do you want to talk about the collaboration that you recently did with another author that was an online course?
Oh, sure. So, one of the things that I would like that I get asked a lot for like young sex educators, like, how did you get started? How did you make it to where you are now? Is something that I would always want to tell people is to be assertive about pitching yourself. And this kind of leads into how I got this gig. I think anything that I'm really proud of in my business, I have pitched myself for, like either a cold pitch or, hey, can you introduce me to so-and-so? That's how I was able to get a contract with Velvet Box. Is I just weaseled my way in, I think. And there's not a whole lot of like exact steps to doing that. And I'm still learning, and I had to learn how to just be like, just put yourself out there, just give it an ask. All that you can get is a no, right. That's not going to kill you. So, so there's an author named Jen Hatmaker, who I really love. And I, back in 2019, I had pitched to be on her podcast. I had no followers in 2019. Negative platform. But I just learned how to pitch pretty well and pitch why I would be a good fit for her audience instead of like, this is how great I am. It's like, this is how I can help you. And so I was on her podcast in 2019, and we had just a very good podcast, and got a lot of business from that podcast. And we just kind of kept loosely in touch over the years. And so when she started these courses called Me Courses, where she was essentially bringing in experts to teach about things that she wanted to know more about in adulthood. So she had a finance person and a deconstructing faith person and a cooking, whatever. And so I was just like, she's got to have me on. Like, I'm her person. I'm her sex person. So I literally am just like, hey, let's do a me course. This is how I think it would be helpful. This is how we could talk about sex to your audience. And didn't hear anything. Went to one of her speaking engagements and paid to be in like the line where you like get to meet her. And once I got to the beginning of the line, I was like, hey, it's Celeste. We've done a podcast together. You know, I'd really love to do a meet. I just did my little elevator pitch and she said, absolutely, let's do it. I'm going to get you in touch with my producer. So, you know, there's no real right or wrong way, but you got to be annoying, kind of. You got to put yourself out there in like the kindest, most tactful way possible. But I would say that has gotten me farther than any other thing, is just knowing how you can help other people and allowing them to see how you can. It has gotten me farther than anywhere. So that's my latest thing with Jen Hatmaker was an amazing opportunity. I got to go to her house and film this course with her. And it's just like a dream come true for me. And it would not have happened had I not like just really been slinging some elbows. I mean, I'm not like hurting anybody, but just been assertive. And that's something that has historically not been up my alley.
It is so hard to do that.
Yes.
I just want to affirm anyone listening right now that, oh my gosh, it is so hard to put yourself out there. I mean, it's so easy for me to pitch other people.
Yes.
I was just telling the team, you know, the other day I pitched a client for a podcast, did it in about 4 minutes, you know, just banged it out. It's so easy to talk, just, you know, show how they can solve a problem, share how they can be helpful, you know, be that guide for the podcaster and their audience. But to then 2 hours later, try to pitch myself for a podcast, I just immediately shriveled up into a ball. It was like, I just can't today. You know, I'm going to have to save that for another day when I'm feeling a little different. You know, like some days it's a little easier, but then you start thinking, is this what they're looking for? Am I being boring? Am I being too assertive? Am I being too braggadocious? Is this interesting? Do I know anything?
Am I completely out of line here? Like just so many things. Yeah, I totally get that. I'm so glad you say that. It makes me feel better.
Oh my God. Yeah, it is so hard to do for yourself. So, kudos to you for believing in yourself and for going after what you want relentlessly. I mean, to be relentless and kind is an art and a skill and something that does not come naturally necessarily for everybody. So I'm very proud of you for what you've accomplished for yourself. And if you're listening and thinking, oh my God, I can never do that, there's also no shame in hiring somebody else to do it for you.
Sure. Absolutely.
But yeah, it's very common to feel uncomfortable with that. But you know, sometimes if you really want something, you just got to go out there and do it. So good for you.
Yeah, thank you.
It was very exciting to see that Jen Hatmaker collaboration come about because, you know, I think she's pretty well known even beyond her circles. And so I know that you were able to help quite a few people through that. So I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
Are you impatient about anything at all right now?
Yeah, probably this book deal. It has a long backstory that you know personally. But I had a book deal on this manuscript in 2020. I got a book deal on it. I finished right. I submitted it on May 1st of 2020. And it went into editing. And then on July 1st of 2020, just after there was COVID, and then there was George Floyd and everything was happening that summer. They pulled my contract. And so they pulled me from being published, which was really, really devastating. And it took me a really long time to kind of lick my wounds. Ooh, I feel a little emotion coming up. It took me a long time, like to try again, to try and get published again. And here I am, it's 2023, and I'm just now kind of like, okay, I can do this, you know? And so I'm probably impatient with myself about that. Like, oh, you should have resubmitted earlier. You should have, you know, you could have been out there earlier. But I think I needed to wait until my heart was ready for rejection again, because it comes with a lot of rejection. It just does. Yeah. And so I think that's what I'm impatient, because I know I'll get a book deal. I know I will. I believe that. I'm impatient for me to be on that other side again.
Yes. Well, thank you for being so vulnerable about that. I imagine that most people can envision the rejection leading up to the deal. Like, no one wants to take it. It's not going to happen. But to then deal with the rejection post deal is not cool.
It's totally not something that I even knew could happen. Like it was like totally like rug out from underneath you. Like we're no longer doing this. And there we could go into depth about why I think that happened. But ultimately it was really bonkers to me. And it set me back farther than I would think that it would have.
Well, I mean, you know, your baby ego really got a lashing there for sure.
Yes.
You know, poor little Celeste on the inside was like, whoa, I thought we had an arrangement here. And, you know,
I thought you liked me.
Yeah, no kidding. My goodness. Yeah, that would, I would also struggle with that big time for sure. I mean, things that have happened to me, particularly in business in the last couple of years, that it has felt like a rug coming out from underneath me. I feel like my biggest challenge was, you know, me versus my ego. You know, it's like, I wanted this because I wanted it. And this is the goal that I set for myself. And now I'm not going to get it when I thought I was going to get it.
Yes.
And that is a painful reckoning.
It is a painful reckoning. Yes. It's such a good lesson on being like, my friend Ashley says, gripping too hard. Like, attachment is the root of all suffering. And so I was just, right. So I was just so attached to that outcome. And it took me a while to like loosen my grip on what that was.
Yeah. Well, it'll happen. It's going to happen. I can feel it.
Yeah, I believe it.
I can see you on my Kindle in the near future.
Yay. All I want is to be able to do one of those cool unboxing videos on Instagram.
Yes.
Oh, look, my book arrived. This is the first time I'm seeing it. It's cheesy.
A non-sex toy unboxing on Instagram.
Yes, exactly.
Your book, baby. So my next question was going to be like, what's the worst thing that happened in your business that turned out to be the best thing? Is that it? Or do you have another example of something that's really, it felt pretty traumatic at the time, but ultimately when you took a step back, it turned out to be the best thing? Do you think? We don't know the end yet.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. I don't know. It was a really hard thing that happened. I don't know if it's going to turn out to be the best thing, but it was a really hard thing. I actually got fired when I had just had my twins. I got fired from a sex toy company where I was working. And little baby Celeste, I was only, 30 at the time, and I'm 42 now. So baby Celeste, probably should have litigated. It was not a fair firing. So, but because I was fired, because I was able to stay at home with my twins for 18 months and really reassess what I wanted my life to look like, I started my business when they were 18 months old. And I just hung up a shingle. I rented out a therapist's office. We were living in Ohio at the time. I made, I don't know, $40 the first year, maybe.
Yeah.
Had no idea what I was doing, but I was so happy to just be helping in a way that felt in line with my ethics and my values, and being able to be at home, most of the time with my kids, but also talking to adults sometimes.
Yes.
So it was I was pretty devastated getting fired. But it really did push me into what I do now.
How old were they when that happened?
I was on maternity leave. And so they were, probably a month old.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
Well, we have lots of thoughts about that, of course. But yes. I am glad, yes, it's not cool. Don't do that, people. But I'm glad it turned out for you and that we are here now, sort of as a result of that. Do you think you would have done this eventually had you not been crowbarred out of that situation?
Yeah, crowbarred. That's a good one. I think I would have been led here somehow, because it really does it feels like it's my purpose. And I was doing sex education for the company, right? But being able to work for myself has been the biggest joy in my career. I went to school thinking that I was going to teach in college, and I did teach in college for about 5 years. But being able to work for myself in my office, in my backyard, and make my own schedule and have an unlimited, really unlimited income potential. Whereas I've already made more than my highest potential as a professor. Right. And so I just it's just what I'm supposed to do. I just fully believe this is the path that I was put on this earth for.
Yeah. I similarly, I was laid off when I was 8 months pregnant with my second kid.
Oh my God.
Laid off, heavy quotation marks. It was not a good fit for either of us. I knew that my special skills and talents were not being utilized there. It was a painful ending. But I did hang out my shingle as a result of that. I thought that was going to be ahead. I thought the magic age of 40 was when I was going to know everything. I was like, when I'm 40, I'll do this. I was
That's right.
30. I don't know 37 at the time. So it was 37 was when the business was born. And it was a rebirth, when my son was born, it was sort of like a rebirth for myself. And so that it was ultimately the best thing because I felt trapped there. It was toxic and challenging. And so I did not feel confident leaving. So they, while it sucked, it was a kindness that they removed me from that situation so that I could fulfill my purpose.
Yeah, I get that. How interesting that our paths definitely do look similar in that regard, for sure. For sure.
I'm sure other women, business owners probably have something around. There's probably some juncture around parenthood that catapulted them into a different direction. It is a defining moment. Your family really crystallizes things for you. All across all aspects. I think, when you don't have those little kiddos looking at you and wanting to spend time with you, you can put up with a lot. You just kind of keep on keeping on. All of a sudden you're like, wow, I'm not happy.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly right. One of the biggest joys too of being my own boss and doing things the way that I want to do them is I have a business partner named Erin. And we worked together on a lot of projects. And then I hired an assistant, Dana. And
who's great. Thank you, Dana.
Yes, Dana's amazing. She's amazing. But the three of us, we get to run our businesses with our families first, which is always how we wanted to run it. We get to offer a new way to do work. And I get to offer that to Dana, and Erin and I offer that to each other. And it's just we can make money, we can be successful, and we can run our family in a way that we want to, which feels just so different than how the corporate world was for me, and feels so doable, like in a future. Like, I hope this future is where we take this idea of project-based work versus, butts and seats.
Yep.
And say, like, yeah, get it done. If you need to be doing it at midnight when your kids are asleep, great, fine.
Yep.
I just think it's just a different way, and you probably have thoughts on this too. That is the new way, and we need to force this out into the future too.
Yes, I definitely run Quidar & Co. like that as well. I mean, my team is they are human beings first. They are moms or spouses or partners, and family comes first. If something comes up, like, we are not performing surgery.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Deadlines are usually flexible. We are here to support each other, and we are here to use the talents that we were born with to make the world a better place. If that has to happen tomorrow instead, that is fine. All I ask is that people communicate with me. Other than that, like, you do you, boo. I trust you. We would not work together if I didn't trust you. And so beyond that, it's just good communication, and mutual respect. And I think, gosh, having a team that is so close knit and, cares for each other and looks out for each other, it's like, whoa, y'all, we can do this.
Yes.
It does not have to be toxic.
It doesn't. Oh my gosh. It's so true. It's so true. Erin and I talk all the time about how, like, as our businesses grow and as we expand our reach, how we don't, and I don't think that we came up with this, but whoever did, thank you. We don't want to just pull our chairs up to the table. Like, we want to build a whole new table. Like, there's not just room for us. Like, we are it. Right. And I just see that going forward as the new way we work. And it makes a lot of sense for the future. And
that's it. To be honest, one of the reasons I wanted to have this podcast is really to peek under the hood of a lot of different businesses and show people you get to do this however you want. And, if you want to run a business that's just a few days a week or whatever it is, so that you get to enjoy this one wild and precious life. It's like, I was talking to one of my team members this week who just celebrated her 1-year anniversary. And I'm like, please tell me what you want to do with this role. I would love to see your vision for this business, because you spend a lot of time here.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
And I would love for it to be your favorite job you've ever had.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I love that. That's so beautiful.
So I think, I don't know, I'm in my like granny era. Like, I want to just pour maternal energy into everyone in my life, and I want to look at the birds. I'm looking at the birds while I do it. Out my window, I have a cute little lady robin cardinal, who comes to hang out. And I am wearing my Birkenstocks and I'm wearing my hair natural. But yes, I am here to be like a grandmother to everybody.
I love it. I am absolutely on board with this. Yes, I love it. Because you can. Like, I think we're proving, like, my business is successful.
Yeah.
Like, I make money.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't want to, I think a lot of women, and you can speak more to this too, don't want to talk about how, like, money is also an important factor here.
Right.
Like, oh, do what you love and, do what you're passionate about. But no, like, make some effing money too,
Yeah.
And sometimes that's like the fulcrum of what I'm doing. Like, does it make me money? Does it make me money in proportion to my time and my talent? And that decides if it's a yes or no. Not like, is it the best gig that I've ever gotten? Maybe not.
Yeah.
But it brings in money. And I feel like women need to talk I talk to my friends about this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We all know what each other makes. Like me and Erin and Dana. And of course I hired Dana, but she has other gigs too. Right. And we are always on each other's team about like, are you asking for enough? Is this worth your time and value? Or what else can you get out of it? If you're not making what you want, can you get, these other things out of it? So, I think that's something that I would love for women to do more is talk about money because it matters. It absolutely matters.
It does. Yeah. I often have to psych myself up a little bit. Not as much anymore, for sure. But when I used to have, contract questions, or I'd be thinking about, well, how much did I charge for this? Be like, well, if I were a man,
yeah, yes,
what would I do? And it's like, I would press send. Actually, I'd add 10% and then I'd press send.
Yes. Yeah, it's so true. Every time I've done that, like some of my highest paid speaking gig contracts, I mean, I was sweating profusely, like trying to get this contract figured out because speaking gigs are hard. There's no like standard. There's no like, okay, if you've been in the business this long, or if you talk on this topic, or if it's this, whatever, it's very variable. And my highest paid speaking gigs, I sweated it out. And both of them, my two highest paid ones, I've sent the contract like literally 90 seconds back. Okay, sounds good. Let's send your like,
oh, crap, I should have charged 50%
more. Like, okay, lesson learned.
Yeah. When I started the business, I, just had no confidence, was charging cut rate, fees, just like, I didn't know which end was up. Plus, pre and postpartum right around that time. And
great. Great. Just add that in.
Yeah. And I'm like, I know, I'm leaking everywhere. And my husband's like, you need to charge more. You worth more. You need to charge more. You're worth more. And, that the tides finally turned about a year and a half later. And he was like, finally.
Good, great. Yeah.
I had to go, be told. I went and got certified by StoryBrand, and they have pricing minimums. I'm like, well, I followed the rules, so here we go. And he's like, oh my God, yes. I don't care who you're listening to, just listen.
Listen to somebody. Yes, it's so true. It's so true.
Listeners, you have Celeste and my permission to charge what you are worth, please. Yes, absolutely. Like have somebody else look at it. Yes. You're a hype girl. Have her look at it and tell them. Yes. Okay. So do you have so in software development, they say like, it's not a bug, it's a feature, it's there's nothing wrong with you. It's actually your superpower. Do you have something like when you were growing up, people sort of be like, oh, Celeste, you're so, fill in the blank, but really it's turned out to be your superpower?
Well, awkward. What is funny is there's two things that come up for me when you ask me this question. The first is that I actually have never really identified with a feeling of awkward. Mostly because I think people are fascinating and I'm always willing to ask them really, really hard questions. I think that's what makes me good at my job with individual people. Like, asking, okay, do you have a masturbation practice? It's totally normal for me. And the more normal it can be for me, the easier it is for somebody to respond to that. So,
sure.
I just early on, and it made me want to be a theater kid and everything like that, realized like, just go for it. Like awkward is a waste of time. It really is. Like awkward doesn't serve you at all. So go for it. And if you look awkward or feel silly, like, so, you know?
Yeah.
So I think
you won't die.
You won't die. Yeah. And probably something funny will happen. And then at least you'll have a good story. So that was something that people always told me when I was like, wow, you just don't have any like filter. Yeah, I guess not.
Thank God.
I know, right? Turned out to be a sex educator. Yes. The thing that is a little harder to talk about is that I grew up feeling like I was dumb because I am a slow reader and I am a slow processor and I'm a slow writer. So to put my thoughts together takes me quite a while, even to write an email or whatever. And I, for the long time, thought I was dumb because I was slow. And it's probably the reason, honestly, why I went and got a PhD, like to prove to myself that I wasn't dumb. And so it took me into my like mid-20s to realize like, oh, you just need a little more time to do things. That doesn't mean you are not intelligent, Celeste. Oh, right. And so I'm still slow. Like I am a slow writer. It takes me a long time to put my thoughts together. But when I do, it's pretty solid. Like I have noticed, like I take a lot of time to consider and think about what I want to say. But once it gets out, like I'm not one of these people who writes by like start a big messy paragraph. I figure a lot of things out in my head before I write them down on the paper. And so I just have to go at Celeste's pace, which is totally fine. And now I feel like it's a superpower because I notice that I can be really present with my kids and really present with clients because I'm really good about thinking and processing what they're saying. But it does make me slower than other entrepreneurs. Like it takes me a while to figure out how to do things on my computer or write a newsletter or, other things. Like my friend Erin, she's fast, right? The amount of work she does in a day is like 3 times the amount of work I do in a day. But I just don't allow that that comparison to let me feel like I used to feel dumb about it. Like, oh, I can't do things fast, so I'm not smart, which is just not true. I'm just slower than most people, and that's okay.
I never knew that because as the consumer of your content, I would never have guessed that because it is always so beautiful and thoughtful. And you said, you are present, you are here in the room. I never feel like you're looking over my shoulder or, so that's, definitely is a superpower. I think I still remember, I was in my mid-20s when I realized everyone's brains work differently.
Yeah.
Like I just thought everyone, like we were all the same and we all process information, like inputs in, and outputs out. And when I realized, I watched, I might have been early 20s. So it was my first job at a PR firm where I got my start. And I was watching our designer go through stock images, and I would go left to right and down. And she just randomly picked all over the page. And I sat there watching her just like, twitching, going, dear God, what are you doing? How are you alive? How is this working? I'm like, what? Is she just processed information totally different? Like chaos worked for her and it did not work for me. But I learned a lot watching her. I'm like, oh, wow. Huh. Okay, everyone is not the same.
We are not the same. Yes. Yeah, it's so true. It's just such a helpful realization, I guess in any realm, like we just do not work the same. And so you learn how to like ask for what you need. Like I know to ask for time. I know to say like, hey, I'm going to get this back to you in like 3 days instead of 1 day or whatever it is. And like, lo and behold, people are fine with that.
Yeah. You know what? I think as soon as you learn how to set expectations, life just gets a lot easier. Like business is so much easier. It's always, if you don't set expectations and then people are just like in this fog and they've got their own stories going on. But if you say, yeah, it's going to, I will have this back to you in 3 days. Okay. Sounds good.
Right.
Maybe you have to negotiate, but still, at least it's out there versus, well, I think it takes this much time. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. So do you have one piece of advice for listeners that they can do right now to make their companies or their lives stronger and better?
I think I said this earlier, but what I would definitely say is lean into what you feel like is a right pitch for you. Like just lean into it. You feel like, collaboration with this person would be so cool, or I would really like this account or whatever. But, you're feeling like maybe you're not a good fit. You are. You're more than a better fit than you think. So just try. Just try. the only way I'm here right now in this business is by trying.
Yeah. Yeah. I am a recovering perfectionist, and life is just so much better when you don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. Like if you just get it most of the way there and go, you could be in the final 5% or 10% for the rest of your life, and it just will never move forward. You got to leap and see where it goes, and then iterate. If it doesn't work out, try something different.
Pivot.
All right. Well, before we wrap up, I just thank you so much for this conversation. I thought that was really good.
Oh, me too. I want to do it again. I want to be your only guest. I want to be every time.
Just the Celeste and Lauren show from here on out. Sorry, everybody else.
That's right.
Well, I think this is, obviously had high hopes, but it exceeded even them. So thank you for sharing yourself with us. And I adore you. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Lauren. It was really, really awesome. I actually really love talking about the business of sex education because there's not a whole lot of people who talk about it. So thank you for asking those questions. I really do appreciate it.
Anything else before we talk about where to find you?
No, that's it. Just to know that you are loved, listener. You are loved.
We love you. We see you. This is a safe space for you.
Yeah.
Where can people connect with you online?
Sure. You can find me.
Amazing content. Sorry.
No, you're fine. The amazing, slowly created content you can find at drcelesteholbrook.com, or you can find me on any socials at Dr. Celeste Holbrook.
So listeners, please subscribe to Celeste's email newsletter and follow her on Instagram for sure. Amazing content. So funny, so thoughtful, so compassionate. You will not be sorry. So thank you, Celeste.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Impatient Entrepreneur. Love the podcast? Be sure to share it with a friend or colleague, or give us a 5-star review on Apple. You can also chat with us on Instagram or Facebook at The Impatient Entrepreneur Pod. Want to star on a future episode? Head over to theimpatiententrepreneur.com to inquire. Thank you to the team at Quidar & Co. for believing in me and bringing this podcast to life. And thank you to Carson Childers for mixing and editing this episode. Can't wait to see you next time.